After months of black blood, U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed readiness to engage in negotiations with India to resolve ongoing trade disputes. He has also expanded his sanctions rhetoric, now targeting EU bloc over lack of action. President Trump on Tuesday stated in a post on his social media platform Truth Social that his administration is actively engaged in ongoing negotiations with India to address trade barriers. He expressed optimism about reaching a favorable agreement and mentioned his anticipation of speaking with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the coming weeks. Prime Minister Narendra Modi responded to President Trump's remarks on ongoing trade talks, saying India and the U.S. are close and natural partners. In a social media post, Modi expressed confidence that negotiations will unlock the limitless potential of the partnership and affirmed that both sides aim to conclude talks soon. In 2024, U.S.-India two-way trade amounted to $129 billion, with the U.S. incurring a $45.8 billion trade deficit. Despite recent tensions, both nations are committed to resolving trade issues through dialogue. Trump acknowledged India's proposal to reduce tariffs, but emphasized the need for further concessions. He expressed confidence that the ongoing negotiations would lead to a mutual beneficial outcome. Trump described Prime Minister Modi as a very smart man and a great friend, highlighting the strong diplomatic tie between the two leaders. The Trump administration's recent softening of tone marks a tactical shift after weeks of sharp criticism. Analysts say U.S. risks strategic costs if it alienates India at a time of rising Chinese influence in Asia. Former officials and Republican leaders like Nikki Haley have warned against jeopardizing decades of cooperation. As President Trump signals readiness to return to the negotiating table and with Prime Minister Modi open to dialogue, all eyes are now on the next round of trade talks with billions at stake and a growing strategic partnership on the line. These discussions could reshape economic ties between Washington and New Delhi. All right, joining me live now from Minnesota here in the United States is Professor Andrew Latham, distinguished scholar of international relations and strategic studies and political economy. Professor, thank you so much for joining us on WION. So what do you make of this so-called turn of events?
Well, predictable, and in fact, I've been predicting it for a while, that the deep relationship between the United States and India, economic, but also geopolitical or strategic, is sound and has been sound through this period of turbulence. I think perhaps to his credit, or at least to the credit of those around him, President Trump has realized that his theatrics and rhetoric and the optics around this, especially the second tranche of 25% tariffs related to Russian oil, has been really counterproductive in terms of the India-U.S. relationship. And we saw that, I think, the Shanghai Cooperation Summit in Tianjin probably conveyed to him that if he pushes too hard on this, he risks not entirely alienating India, but problematizing and complicating that relationship needlessly. So now he's backed off for the last week or so in terms of the tone of his comments. And now we see from both New Delhi and Washington statements that a trade deal is about to be struck. Very good for Indo-American relations, not so good for Chinese aspirations with respect to India.
Very interesting. And Professor, just hours before President Trump put that social media post out, the optimistic note, he was talking to European leaders and he was trying to convince them to put 100% tariffs on any country that does business with Russia, notably India and China. How do you read that?
I read it as more bloviating. What I meant to imply about President Trump is he's not entirely geopolitically tone deaf. He got the message from the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit, but it seems not to have sunk in terribly deeply because then he goes to Europe and kind of through the back door is making noises about reestablishing these tariffs. I don't think the Europeans are going to follow his orders in this respect. I think part of it is he simply wants to put pressure on Europe to do his bidding, and Europe has been very compliant around the tariff issue in the not too distant past. But I don't think this represents a serious challenge to now increasingly stable Indian-American economic and geopolitical relations.
Well, that's definitely good news and good to hear. Professor, thank you so much for joining us on WION. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
You're very welcome.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.